Welcome to today's show, Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, passionate, inspirational speaker, author, poet, and entrepreneur. Welcome to Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm delighted that you joined me. I want to give a big thank you to those of you who are listening in today, and I also want to give a big shout out to all of you listening around the world. I'm delighted and so grateful that you tuned in. Did you know that you can now listen to my show on iTunes? Yes, you can. And thank you for spreading the word about my show, Legacy Living. As many of you know, my goal is to reach folks in the United States and around the world, especially those who do not have equal access to information, and in particular, the kind of information that I share here on my show. So hats off to you, and thank you for sharing the wealth. There are all kinds of ways to be wealthy, aren't there? You make my heart and soul just sing. I sure hope you're enjoying a fabulous day today and that you're having a fantastic week. Because you know what? In the grand song of the universe, life is very, very short. It's short and sweet and very, very precious. So I hope you're making a difference in your own life, because when you do, you also make a difference in the lives of someone else. Now, a lot of folks, they ask me, Dr. Burgess, how do you make your life count for something? They ask me, how do you really do that? Well, it's simple, very simple. You make your life count day by day, step by step, moment by moment, every single day, 365, 24/7. You know, just mentioning to someone that you love the show, that you like to pass it on, I mean, that's one of the ways to make your life count, right? Because if this show is adding value to you and creating a new way to see things or breathing a fresh breath of air into your life, that's one way that you can pass that wonderful gift that you've received on to somebody else. See how simple that can be? So that's what Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count is all about. You can learn more about Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count by visiting the Gloria Burgess website. That's GLORIA, B as in boy, URGESS.com. That's the Gloria Burgess website, GLORIA, B as in boy, URGESS.com, or by visiting Facebook. And that's facebook.com/DR, D as in doctor, DR, Gloria Burgess, PhD /. You can also tune into the show regularly right here on TalkNetworkRadio.com. That's TalkNetworkRadio, all smushed together.com. And one more thing, you can listen to this show now on iTunes. So look for my show, Legacy Living, and listen live or listen on the go. All right, so today, this is part 2 of my show called Having Difficult Conversations, and I have a special guest, Dr. Marcia Reynolds. Now, you might recall from last week's show that my guest is someone who makes her life count. She makes a difference in her own life, day to day, and in the lives of so many others throughout the world, through her work as a writer, a coach, a speaker, and trainer. Now, last week we talked about her work looking through the lens of her latest book called The Discomfort Zone. Don't you just love that title? The Discomfort Zone, How Leaders Turn Difficult Conversations into Breakthroughs. So let's dive into part 2 of my conversation with Marcia. Dr. Reynolds is the go-to expert on holding difficult conversations. When organizations around the world want to breathe life into their connections, their conversations, and their cultures, they call on this very sensitive, very smart, and amazing thought leader. During the past 30 years, Marcia has spoken to and coached leaders in 35 countries, and she's reached over 100,000 people worldwide in her training programs. Dr. Reynolds has her doctorate in organizational psychology, and her focus is singular. She focuses on transformation. That's what I do. That's what I love about her. She focuses her research and writing on transformational leadership to help startup and established Fortune 500 companies prosper in today's chaotic, unpredictable world. And she's written several books, and her latest book is called The Discomfort Zone: How Leaders Turn Difficult Conversations into Breakthroughs. Okay? And by leaders, we mean all kinds of leaders. This can be a leader in your family, like a parent, right? A mother or a father. It could be an older sibling. It could be an uncle, an aunt. Okay? So anyone in the family system, anyone in a team, anyone in any kind of work environment. So this could even be leading yourself, right? I mean, we all have to lead ourselves in our personal lives, right? We all have to take charge. So this is a book for everyone. So before we begin part 2 of having difficult conversations, I just want to take a moment to welcome you, my dear listeners. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, and this is Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'd like to extend a special welcome to those of you who are just joining my show for the first time or the second time, and those of you joining Talk Network Radio for the very first time. You are in for a real treat. I'm so excited to have you listening in today, and I'm deeply honored that you've allowed me to be part of your day so you can be inspired by the ideas and resources to make your life count. Now, today's program is all about difficult conversations, holding difficult conversations. And my focus today is on Marcia's book, The Discomfort Zone, and it's all about how we hold difficult conversations. The subtitle is How Leaders Turn Difficult Conversations into Breakthroughs. So join me now for part 2 of Holding Difficult Conversations with my very special guest, Dr. Marcia Reynolds. We've just talked about the value of listening in the first part, and I've just asked her the question, how does using our reflective intelligence, and that's the opportunity for us to slow down, to stop and reflect, how does using our reflective intelligence show up in your own life and work? Like, how do we come to terms with this, right?
One of my favorite books is by Daniel Kahneman and called Thinking Fast and Slow. And he talks about, in the book, our brain's unwillingness to stop and reflect and to think about what I'm going to say next, or to really take in what you're saying and ponder that for a while. That we all think too fast is part of what you just said, that we have to solve things and take action so quickly. But he says it's also kind of it's not just our society, it's a human function that we don't like to stop and reflect and think about things and slow things down, that it takes a very deliberate effort to do that. And then if you look further, if it's going to be slightly uncomfortable, where I might question myself and find, oh, maybe I'm wrong, then we really avoid it because we don't want to be wrong. We'd rather rationalize our behavior than admit that we were wrong.
Mm-hmm. So this is something that we're hardwired with, it sounds like, then.
It is. And so, when we talk about, like, emotional intelligence, really stepping back and saying, well, what am I feeling and why? And then, doing that with other people. Well, that's nice. and the question is, can people learn that? Well, absolutely they can learn it, but it requires practice. And most of the people don't practice. so we can create an awareness that, we're all emotional. We have these emotions, and, we have triggers that drive our emotions. But really, sitting down and saying, so what is it that caused me to feel that way? Really requires that we set timers on our phone and remind us to do that 3-4 times a day until we create a habit of awareness and reflective processing. It's just not going to happen. So are you willing, to make this a practice for, at least a few weeks till it starts to create a habit? That's the question I ask. But it really takes that. It's not something where you can just read a book or listen to this, to our recording, and then go out and be it. You have to really then make the commitment and the promise that you're going to practice this on a regular basis.
In fact, I was just thinking about the word commitment, and I love the word promise. It's a promise to yourself.
Yeah.
So,
it certainly have changed my relationships for the better. So, it's a good
thing. So one of the things I asked you about before we started recording was your work is with leaders, and it's in the workplace. And I'm curious because I know I have listeners out there who, they have jobs, but they also have families. And so can you apply what you're talking about, Marcia, to other contexts, other scenarios?
Absolutely. It really is conversation, ways of being in a conversation. And I talk about leaders because that's just the work that I do. But when I work with coaches around the world, many of the coaches are not working with leaders. They're coaching people in relationships. They're coaching, people in dealing with issues with their families. And these are important steps to take to have real, authentic, human conversations, in any scenario that you're in.
So if I'm a parent and I have teenagers at home, or maybe even my boomerang kids have come home.
Yeah.
But they're back home. So if I could just get you to talk to me a little bit about how might I apply and use the kinds of principles and practices that you're talking about with my kids.
Absolutely. I have a friend who's been teaching. She wrote a book called Parent as Coach many years ago and has been teaching this around the world. And I think it's so essential, especially with teenagers and young adults who think they already know everything about life, that, they're not going to listen to you tell them what to do, so there has to be another way. And honestly, if you go into these conversations with, let me understand how you think right now and how you see the world and how you see yourself in the world. And then maybe if they're willing then to explore with you, is there another possibility? Again, how do you know that to be true? Is there anything else that maybe you're missing? That you're helping these people think through their situation and to see maybe a bigger picture that they may then choose to act a different way. They're more likely than to change their behavior than by you telling them what to do, which they'll probably ignore. And that, in fact, when you look at how we learn long-term behavioral change, that there really has to be a shift in how I see myself in the world in order for me to actually change my behavior over time. And so the best way for me to make that shift of how I see myself in the world is for you to ask me some questions where I start thinking, I hadn't thought about it that way. Maybe there is another way of seeing this. And then you get me talking about, all these other possibilities, So maybe it's not that people don't like me. Maybe I'm not speaking up and they don't even see me.